I know that we wanted to dig into trail cameras and trail camera placement.
You guys are a little bit later when you typically put out, right?
Yeah, for sure. We put out so many cameras, like it's just so many more pictures to go through every single day. Because I'd have to go back, but like I'd hate to guess how many thousands of photos that we look through every single day between the three of us. I would say probably 15,000 photos.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Drury Outdoors 100% Wild podcast.
That's Tim Chelswick, by the way. That's, I think, his announcer voice. I was going to say annoying voice.
My Don Pardo voice.
So I'm Matt Drury.
You're Matt Drury.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm really kind of excited right now.
I can see.
Tingling. I've got a lead on a potential really sweet local property.
How big is she?
4 acres.
Hey, that's
4 acres in the heart of some really good suburban whitetail ground.
I know where you're talking.
So
it's not the place I just told you about, is it?
Well, we got to talk about that.
Yeah, because it's about the same acreage.
There's a lot of, like, this particular municipality has a lot of rules. So I got a lot of hoops to jump through before anything's a go, but could be one of those properties that kind of makes your season.
Awesome. Well, good luck. I hope to have an update here soon.
Hope to be able to give one.
All right. So we're going to dive right into this here. We got a special guest with us this week. We got Knowledge joining the podcast this week.
Yeah. In fact, I think this guy's got one of the most highly viewed podcast episodes that we've ever done.
If not the most. Yeah.
Everyone, please welcome Mark Drury.
No, sorry. That's not him.
No. Sorry. It's Wade Robinson.
What's up, Wade?
How's it going, guys?
It's going good. So obviously, Wade knows that better than us, Tim. But
yes.
Obviously, Wade is the farm manager for Mark Drury and longtime camera guy. And really, you've been with us how many years now? It's been a long time.
Oof. Yeah, I don't know, 13 years or so.
Yeah. So Wade's seen a lot. He's been a part of a lot of really epic moments up there with Mark and at Mark's place. And really even now creating a lot of your own epic moments as well. Killed a couple really nice deer in the last few years and some really cool hunts and, starting to get to go on some more adventures where you're in front of the camera too. And so it's been really cool to see the evolution. We're going to dive into a bunch of different topics today, but before we do, I maybe dive into some of that side of it, like where you started to where you are now and kind of what it took to get there outside of the perseverance of being with Mark for 13 years.
Yeah. Like back in 2012, I actually started and I took care of all of Mark's farms by myself. Granted, I had some help with Dan Thurston. He helped me a little bit. Brandon Jennings came up and helped some. Tucker Corey. I had some help whenever I was solo those first few years. And then, it just got to be too much stuff. And, we've had a second guy, thank God, because it is a lot of work by yourself. So we're able to get another guy hired and give me another hand. But that's been really nice. Really nice to have a second hand. And, Perry's with us now and he's been with us probably going on 4 years.
Yeah. Perry's been with us a few years now.
Wade, what's it like getting help from Dan Thurston?
It's more of a comedy show than it is anything, but the guy actually, he's really smart, particularly in the planting side of things. He does a lot of that stuff back in Kansas for himself, but it's fun, and you never know what's coming out of that man's mouth.
So many interesting
usually vulgar. That's why him and Wade get along so well.
A lot of dirty jokes.
Yeah, I learned a lot from Dan.
Oh boy.
Yeah, because how old were you when you started with Mark?
I would have been
pretty impressive.
19, I believe.
Holy
I believe
cow.
19.
They ruined him.
Wow. Yeah, you're still growing up then.
Yeah. A lot of growing up to do, and still got a lot to learn. But
don't we all?
But nonetheless, like I said, I've got to soak in a lot of information from a lot of knowledgeable people. So it's been awesome just learning and getting to ride this train for so long.
This is the type of info that he learned.
$200 is $200.
That's the type of stuff that he's getting out of those guys.
Well, and the other cool thing is way that you get to like people that operate at a high, and I know this personally, people who operate at a high level in any discipline hang out with other people who work at a high level.
Who are you hanging out with?
I'm not going to mention them.
Wait, don't laugh.
Nor am I going to mention the disciplines.
This is serious journalism here.
Thank you. No follow-up questions. Please clap. But you're hanging with guys that just are legit deer killers. So not only are you able to soak in what Mark and Terry have, but then also all these other guys that are operating at a high level.
Yeah, for sure. And Mark's always been super gracious and, allowing me to get behind the bow. Like even the first year I was able to kill, I don't know, a couple bucks, a buck and maybe 2 bucks in Iowa and maybe one in Missouri. So maybe 2 or 3 a year, the very first year I started. And, it's grown from there. Probably on year 3, maybe 4, I was, he allowed me to go up to Alberta and step into Jared's spot. Jared was out that year. And then I've been going back there and being behind the bow ever since then. Haven't missed a year. However, this year I might miss that Alberta trip because I got the opportunity to go on a New Mexico elk hunt. So, been on a lot of mule deer hunts. So I'm going to take the offer up and I think I'm going to get to go on a New Mexico elk hunt. So I'm really excited for that. It'll be my first ever elk. I went on one probably 2 or 3 years ago, missed an absolute giant. But again, this will be a opportunity, a bucket list of mine that I've wanted to go on for years. So hopefully, we could have some luck out there.
So what kind of preparation do you do for a hunt like that versus, which it may be pretty similar to the preparation you're doing for the mule deer hunts as far as like shooting distance and all that stuff. But what kind of preparation are you putting in for that type of hunt?
Obviously I want to get in a little bit better shape.
You look
get those lungs
horrendous
because I think it'll be a lot. What's that?
What? Nothing. Go ahead.
But get those lungs in shape and just shooting out there a little bit further distance. I'm actually gonna get a little bit heavier arrow set up. I'm gonna try and I talked to a couple different guys. I think I'm gonna get about a 550 grain setup.
Okay.
So just get a little bit heavier arrow going and shoot a little bit further distance and do a little bit more walking because we don't do a whole lot of walking in the Midwest. We like to ride that tractor EV around, get as close as we can.
It's a different story. Have you started thinking about broadheads at all? Can you use a mechanical out there?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll definitely use a mechanical. I'd probably stick to a 2-inch. I have a 80-pound phase 4, 80-pound limbs phase 4.
Jesus,
like I said,
mine's 81.
I'll be shooting, about probably push towards that 550 grain arrow setup. So hopefully it'll be enough, to be able to penetrate as well as possible. I love those micro diameter TKOs by Victory. I shoot those with whitetail, but not near that heavy. So I'm going to heavy up my load a little bit.
That's what she said.
I was asking Austin Land about this because I'm, as I mentioned before, and as you know, Wade, I'm also going on an archery elk hunt, and I was wondering the exact same thing if I should switch up my setup at all because I'm not shooting the weight you're shooting. Like I have 60-pound limbs. I'm pulling about 64 pounds, but I'm shooting those VAPs, the Victory VAPs. And Austin said I should be fine on, he's like, you may want to not shoot, 60, 70 yards.
Sure.
Yeah. But he said you should be okay. So I'm actually, I wasn't planning on changing anything, but now
the seed has been planted.
But now I'm thinking, what the hell? No, I actually asked the guy at Victory too. I was like, hey, what do you think about the arrows I'm shooting? I'm shooting my whitetail arrows. He's like, no, those will be plenty good for elk as well. So what's driving you towards the heavier arrow on this setup?
Just in all honesty, my old bow, my VXR, I was just shooting like 70 pounds, So, with the combination of getting a heavier bow with this phase 4, I was still shooting my lighter setup. So they're a little bit light for my bow as is.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
So I was like, since I got to change, like, I think I only killed 2 deer with that last year. Did a great job with it. But I have the weight behind it to be able to push a little bit heavier arrows. So I was like, might as well. I'm going to have to go up a little bit. Might as well get up there on that 500, grain mark. So that's really the main thing. But yeah, I mean, you wouldn't have to switch up, but to have that kinetic energy out there, at 60, 70 yards, you probably want a little bit heavier.
I am a little worried about that. I mean, which I guess I'll have to limit my yardage then, but that's the first thing I thought is I needed
trade off.
Well, I was thinking, should I change out the limbs and should I, jump to a heavier arrow? But my guy, Mike's archery here locally, he's like, no, you're fine unless you want to. He's like, it's easy to switch them out because I got that lift. But I was like, well, I guess I'll just stick with what I'm doing then. So
yeah.
Do you know what your hunting arrows weigh in at now?
No. No, I just go hunt, Tim.
Just throw them on the quiver and let her rip.
Yeah.
Mike weighed mine a couple years ago, and I'm right around 424, which is kind of on the lighter side. I like fast, but this past year I clipped a little twig that I just didn't see, and it just changed the trajectory of my arrow enough to where I didn't end up killing the buck that I was shooting at.
Yeah.
So that thing stuck in my head. Like, man, I wonder if I'd have been shooting a little more weight, the arrow would have kept on its course a little better. And it's a rare. I'm usually shooting 20 yards and in.
Yeah.
But it would be nice to have that extra energy.
So you mentioned the 2-inch cut, the 2-inch mechanical. What's your thought process there versus
just, again, more be able to penetrate more, I mean, obviously the 80 pounds would be plenty to push a 2.25 or over 2-inch broadhead through one, but just to get max, I want as big a cut as possible, but I also want to be able to shoot out there a little bit further if need be. So I figured, just go with it. The original broadheads that we shot were 2-inch, never had any problem with them.
Yeah.
And have always done great with them. So I think that 2 inches is a real solid size.
Yep.
So I think 2 inches be plenty.
Thank God.
And it'll still, not be so big where, you have to worry about that penetration thing. So
yeah.
Still talking about
that's where you put. Right? That's what she said.
Well, I'm refraining myself because I used it a little prematurely.
Wade, jeez, grow up.
Yeah,
don't do that kind of stuff.
And I'm a big boy.
Yep.
You know better. Well, I know that we wanted to dig into trail cameras and trail camera placement. Specifically, for guys like me, there's no property I have right now where I could put out food or mineral. So I've really got no options. And I'm curious, Wade, like in that kind of scenario, what are the types of areas that you're keying in on dropping those cameras? Because it's about time where like you can start telling if a deer is going to be a shooter or not. It's starting to get exciting. Like, okay, it's that time to start doing the inventory thing.
Yeah, as this podcast airs, for sure. Like that's when we're after the 4th of July, and that's when it really starts getting on people's minds. Mm-hmm. And you guys are a little bit later when you typically put out, right?
Yeah, for sure. We put out so many cameras, like it's just so many more pictures to go through. So we always wait till, get towards the end of July. But, in Iowa, we're able to put out, feed and stuff like that in the off season. And, we get all of our early pictures in that first week of August over feed, just to get an inventory. And we'll have all of our bucks within the first 2 weeks of August. It seems like, I don't know what it is, but they're all there. And, that's the best time to get pictures over feed if you can in your area. In Missouri, we can't. So, we just don't obviously get the picture numbers down there. But nonetheless, we find a water hole or a gate gap. Those are two great spots that we always have good luck on. And then, Stealth had come out with that new revolver camera. It's a 360 camera, and you stick that in the middle of a clover field. It triggers on one doe, and triggers all the way around and you're able to see what's in the whole field. So, a camera like that is nice because you can get an inventory and they don't have to be right in front of it, because if a doe walks in front of your camera, you're going to get to see what's in the whole field, which is what I like about that particular camera. So that's a great camera to get a really good inventory of what's going on your farm, especially if you can't get the deer right in front of your cameras.
Yeah. That camera also has an on-demand mode. So if you just want to know what's happening in the field at a given time, just pop open on demand and it'll deliver that picture. So it's a super scout. Like, it's great for big open fields, food plots and stuff.
Yeah. And like this time of year, don't get frustrated if you're not getting bucks all over your cameras, particularly those bigger timber farms, because this time of year, it seems like the bucks obviously they're in bachelor groups, and 8 to 12 bucks in one group could be the whole herd of bucks off your whole farm down in the river bottoms, in the big wide open tillable fields, not up into your farm like they are in the fall. So, just don't get frustrated if you're not getting the pictures that you do during the fall, or, just give it some time. And like I say, if you're not getting pictures, they could just be just off your farm in a big tillable field or something, because they don't need a whole lot this time of year. As thick as everything is, they don't need a whole lot of cover. Heck, those beans that are chest high, they could just go bed out in the middle of them. It'll be nice and cool in those, river bottoms or creek bottoms and those bigger fields, and they'll just go bed in anything, tree line, a little waterway. So they don't have to be up into those timber farms or deer farms that you might have them in the fall.
You hear about that quite a bit from people like, well, I don't see any pictures, I'm not getting any pictures. Yeah. And then, once the harvest happens, then it changes, the bedroom shrinks obviously drastically, and then changes things a lot. And that's been, for as long as I can remember, that's always been the story at, say, like Terry's farm in North Missouri, which he has plenty of food, but there's a lot of big ag sources around him, and the deer just aren't there this time of year typically. And it takes a little bit for them to start moving in, unless, he's got a real homeboy or something. So I think that's a good point, because it can get pretty frustrating, especially like if you can put some sort of supplemental feed or some attractant out, if it's legal in your area and you can do it, you certainly can draw them in for a round of pictures or something like that, and at least know, okay, this is what's in the general area. But if you aren't able to do that, it is tough. It's tough. You're pretty much banking on the fact that they live there on the farm. You're near where they're at, their bedroom, or, like you said, a lot of times they'll just be hanging out right near whatever the ag source is, because they're just eating, like it's 100 degrees here today, probably heat index of 110. They're not going to be moving. They're going to be sitting in the shade, and, they're trying to reserve as much as they can. Now the moon, as we're shooting this, the moon's been, high in the sky in the morning times. I've been seeing a lot of deer in the mornings going back to bed, and hell, it's been 80, 5 a.m. It's 80 degrees. So I'm pretty sure they're probably getting to where they need to go, and they're probably just chilling the entire day,
Yeah, for sure. And like I mentioned earlier, the deer definitely need water. So if you got water on your farm, that's a great spot to put a camera to monitor, to get those summer pictures. Granted, you're not going to get them every day. If there's a homeboy there, maybe you will. But, if you leave it there, 3 or 4 weeks, you're going to figure out what's coming through there in the summer months and see what's there, because all deer need water. So you can, instead of putting it on a 10-acre field, you could put it on a 1-acre water hole or something like that, so definitely be able to narrow it down a little bit. But that's, what we do down in Missouri. We do that. Major trails, that, and even though they're in velvet, they still mess with scrapes, like, those scrapes that are, there year in and year out. You have one, granted it's way early, but they will go hit those scrapes. We've seen them hit the scrapes with velvet on. We've seen them hit the scrapes after they've shed their antlers. They just still marking that territory and putting that scent out there. So, we don't do it a whole lot, just because honestly, we just kind of wait for it to get closer to season and put it on the food plots. That green to green transfer in early October, late September, early October is a a great way to get pictures too. They'll transfer out of all those big bottom bean fields into your, little radish or clover field. So that's another spot to put it on in late September, early October.
Wade, what kind of trail cam settings do you like? What are you looking at? How are you changing settings based on where you have, like, if it's a pinch point versus a water source versus ag field, food plot? Like, how do you make distinctions in your trail cam settings based on location?
I would say, like, if we have like a feed or a tractive pile or even a mineral site, we usually set it anywhere from a minute to 3 minutes, because they just stand there in front of it for so long. If you have it on every minute, you ain't going to miss anything. So like a minute for that, usually on like a gate gap or somewhere where they're just walking past, no delay to 15 seconds. Because again, like I said, this time of year, those bucks are in those bachelor groups. You may want to have it on no delay where, that first buck of the group of 8 walk through the gap. It takes 10 seconds for all of them to walk through there. You're not going to get the rest of them. So on a gate gap, probably no delay. So
that's a good, those Reconyx self cameras. We've always had good luck in the past with the rapid fire setting. You got to really watch, which I'm sure all cameras at this point have a pretty good, IR, and they're capturing the image quickly, but we always had good luck with that rapid fire. But this time of year, if you do have a food source, if you have supplement feed or something out, you want to take it off the rapid fire and you want to dial it back.
Burn through some batteries in a hurry.
Yeah, you want to dial back a little bit.
Especially if you don't have an unlimited, if it's a cell cam, you don't have an unlimited plan. You got maybe 600 photos per month to use. You don't want to burn through all those in a week's time. Wait, on a gate gap or on a pinch point, do you set the camera up kind of perpendicular to the trail, so it's looking at the side of the trail at a 90-degree angle?
Diagonal is usually best if you can get that angle of the diagonal of them, coming to it or going past, because sometimes, if your camera is asleep and say that sometimes they get a little skittish around those gate gaps and they'll just jet right through them. So it's better to kind of look across it at an angle versus straight across, if at all possible, if your situation allows. But that's why you got a T-post. You just go drive a T-post in there and get it exactly how you want. We use those a lot.
Yeah, I'd much rather have a picture of them, even if it's just walking away. I'd rather have that where you get a few shots of it walking away versus the one shot of it going,
of its nose or butt or whatever.
It's like shit. So dead on.
And we always have, if we have to set it up where it's shooting across, you get back it off a little bit and get it about that, 15, 20 yard, get a real nice wide view of it.
Yeah.
Granted, your pictures ain't going to be full frame, but it allows you to get an opportunity to have a picture or two in there and catch the whole deer's body, and so you can figure out exactly who it is.
Yeah. Wade, you mentioned T-posts. I've been using T-posts more this spring and early summer than I ever have, because I've been testing some of those revolver cameras, and they're different because they work better when you place them on top of something as opposed to strapping them to a tree or a fence post, because then you lose part of the 360-degree angle. So that's something for people to think about if they want to get one of those 360 cameras, to really think about bringing a T-post and T-post driver with you. Plop it right down in the middle of a field, because it's just a different kind of kit than most people are used to setting up.
And then right to a tree.
Yeah, and then also, like, because they sit higher, people I think are going to have a tendency to put them too high. So like you really got to get that T-post down, because this thing's going to be sitting up on top and the sensor's up kind of halfway up the device.
You're typically putting the camera, I don't know, like
around the belly button.
Just above my belly button is where I like them.
So that's a lot of driving on a T-post.
Yes.
Get those short ones.
You say you need to get in shape for elk. There you go. Just
driving
T-posts.
So we touched on cells a little bit here. Have you guys, we've been getting a ton of questions about it, and I've kind of generically have answered most of them because I just haven't seen enough information on it yet. But curious, I know Mark stays in contact with local DNR and has some contacts there within the Iowa Department of Natural Resources there. So what's the word here? Have you heard anything a little more definitive on the cell camera stuff?
The only thing that I've heard that's definitive was that on public ground, you can't on public ground, or you can't leave them out overnight, which who's going to put a trail camera up for the day? You know what I mean? Like, so basically you can't on public ground, but I haven't heard anything set in stone for private ground. I think all's good to go. Obviously we'll check. We don't put our cameras out till, like I said, late July. But certain of it that, you can't put them out and leave them out on public ground in Iowa anymore. But they say that you can't put, I think, tree stands, or basically can't leave anything in the woods on public ground anymore in Iowa.
It sounds like it's trying to avoid people like parking on a spot and reserving it,
which is kind of the problems they're having out west, and why it's
over
getting
water
banned.
holes.
Yeah, over water holes.
Mm-hmm.
So again, probably mostly speculative here, and speaking
That's
about
what we're good at.
Yeah, that's right. And I do want to dive into this further once we have more info from an actual source that's directly,
authoritative.
Yeah, that's right. But I've heard several things about it can't help aid you in a hunt, and it's related to like the CB radios and phones and texting and all that. Mm-hmm. And it's like, well, if you don't open the app, literally, if you just keep the cell phone or the cell camera's app closed and you don't open it during the hunt, it would not be aiding you in a hunt. Mm-hmm. Even if it's capturing the image, the information does you no good unless you see the information. Mm-hmm. So now there's a real gray area there. Obviously, it's an honor system.
Push notifications can pop through, and
you could turn all that stuff off too. Mm-hmm. So I mean, I would think there is still ways, because everybody instantly, I think, once that word came out and it spread, like every podcast talked about it, and it spread all over social media, and it's like, well, we need more info, first of all. But second of all, if you just don't, delete the damn app before you go out. If you really want to say, hey, no, I didn't use it, those are easy solutions where you don't have to take your camera down, or you don't have to not use it. It's just that you can't it can't aid you in a hunt. Anyways, we need to find a lot more. I was just curious if you guys had spoken to the local agent there yet or anything like that.
No, we're actually, getting a change of agent. So I think a lot of it is that you just need to talk to your local guy and see how he reads it to, what he interprets it as. Yeah. So I think that's what they do. But, these cell phone company or these cell camera companies, they could still fix this problem. If that does go through, or, you can't look at it during your hunt or whatever, they could still keep their cell cameras. Everybody could still have them and get that information without having to go in and out of each spot. All they would have to do is only allow the pictures to come at nighttime, whether it be before pre-dawn or, post dusk. If they had that setting on there where that would only allow, like, whenever you buy the camera, say you're in this state, well, these are the regulations. I know it's probably a lot more work for those companies, but it'd still allow you to be able to use a cell camera, but not have to hunt with them.
You just gave me a good idea here, I think, Wade. Oh. You could take it a step further, and there could be a setting, just like how when you're driving in certain cars, it can't, you try to call or text somebody and it gives you that message back. Yeah. It could be a setting hunt just mode. Like that. I'm in hunt mode. You turn the setting on, and that's actually trackable. Like if an agent, Tim's writing this down. Like if an agent's, questions you on it, there would actually be data that would be able to say, hey, I was in hunt mode. I didn't, I didn't get anything I didn't get that data. So I think we have something here, Mr.
You
know what? We're going to hold this podcast so we can patent this real quick.
Tim had this idea.
Tim had an idea. That's right.
A good idea. That was my idea.
Wait, if you put our half brains together, we got a full working.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But no, I think that there's ways around it for these companies. If, these states do start getting a little bit more cracked down on these cell camera laws.
Yeah.
But as of right now in Iowa, I don't think there's anything other than for public land.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think they were just trying to clarify it can't aid you in a hunt for the private side.
Yeah, and the other thing you have to think about from, step into another set of shoes, another public ground user, like maybe it's a family. Do you want someone getting pictures of your family? You don't know, but someone out there is getting pictures of you and your family taking a walk back in the woods.
Like non-hunters, you're saying?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, people out taking a hike. So
taking a shit.
Yeah, that's happened. What was it, Paul Annier? I think on the DeerCast riding team, he had some guy I think it was near a scrape too, or like some very significant place. I wonder if he had sound turned on his video.
That would be great. That's where you think I got this sound from.
Oh man.
All right.
Nice job, Paul.
Yeah.
Providing us with sound effects. Well,
all right. So, as far as the cameras go, you guys still put out a lot of regular cameras, not cell cameras, through the inventory period of the season, don't you?
Yeah, we do. But again, like having the cell cameras, we almost, like there's cameras that we put out in, late July that we never checked until whenever we pulled the camera. Granted, the batteries have died, or whatever, but it just keeps us from having to go in and change batteries, change cards. But we do still like that inventory from all year long, because we're not, yes, sometimes we're hunting off of MRI, but most of the time on these bigger, older, mature deer, we're hunting off of last year's information or the year before that's information. Like, we're using that information and we're collecting all the information off the normal cameras and keeping it, because like I say, most of the time we're hunting off of last year's information, because even some of that MRI, yeah, it's great if you get a picture of a deer going to bed or whatever, you kind of know he's in the area. But, a lot of the times if that if that deer's in front of the camera, you're a step behind him. So they've also kind of led us the wrong way, if you will, as well, and put us a step behind them. Whereas, before cell cameras, we would more be hunting just off of, information from last year on a particular deer or what have you, So like, they don't always help you. They've also hindered us. We're like, dang it, if we didn't have cell cameras to kind of lead us to go to that spot, whether a deer went to bed or whatever it may be, so they help you some, but they also hinder you some from hunting like you normally would.
You hear people talk about that, like, cell cameras will, that they help me kill this deer. Cell camera, if it wasn't for the cell camera, I 100% wouldn't kill any deer. I always kill deer based on cell camera. I always think like, shit, I get 1 billion cell camera it tells me the deer's in the area. And that's about it. Like, only I could probably count on one hand where it was like, he went to bed here super late in the morning. We went in there and he walked out, but a lot of times it's like, yeah, he went to bed super late here in the morning and then he walked out super late, or he just kept walking. You know what I mean? Like,
for sure.
I don't know. I don't personally think it's as cut and dry, like 100% lock it in as what people say it is. Like, and maybe I'm just not that good of a hunter.
One of my buddies has a lot of places to hunt, and he's got cell cams on each of them. They're small parcels, and he gets paralyzed by all the information coming in, and has had a few rough seasons because he's not really dialing in.
Locked into a spot. He's bouncing.
Following those whack-a-mole. Yeah. There is such thing as too much information where you get paralyzed by everything that's coming at you.
Yeah.
How do you guys handle that? Because you have a lot of, what Mark calls satellite farms, a lot of parcels, whether it's 80 acres or 100 acres or 120, you kind of have them dotted out, across, several mile radius. And so you're hunting different herds a lot of times. Sometimes something's, going back and forth, a couple miles between a farm, but mostly you're on different herds. You're getting intel every day. What makes something actionable intel wise for you to make a move and go to this spot versus another spot?
Yeah. Myself, Perry, and Mark, we all have, certain cell cameras on each of our phones or whatever, so we have it split up between the three of us. And again, kind of like what I was saying earlier, like, we always set our pictures to come in, right there before it's hunt time so that we can make a decision. And then again, in the evening time, whatever, after dark or whatever. But anyways, no, we just figure out, if a deer went to bed, then, if he went to bed late, we go in, move in on that spot if the wind's right, or, just if a deer's been doing something for 2 or 3 days in a row, we go in on that spot. So yeah, we try and take that MRI and run with it and see what happens. But like I said, more often than not, it doesn't, it's just information. It's, what I mean? It's not as cut and dry as it may seem, so like, granted, we have a picture of a deer going to bed, but doesn't mean he's going to walk out early.
Yeah.
If he went to bed late, yeah, there's probably a better chance that he'll walk out within shooting light versus if he went to bed at 3 a.m. or something like that. You don't know where he went, but if he went to bed, right after the first light or whatever, that he's probably going to be bedded within 100 or 200 yards off the field or wherever.
And you guys, the other piece of that puzzle, you guys are planting food tucked in pretty close to the bedrooms, and you're creating bedding pretty close to the food in areas where it may not have been great, with TSI or whatever the case may be. So you're creating. We kind of know what
bedroom that these deer are going to.
Yeah.
If we get their picture on this particular camera or that particular camera, we kind of know where they're headed and where they should be bedded. So, just to see that they're there and close. So,
This is something that I've been doing a little different this year is I'm adding more solar packs to my setup.
Yeah,
man, those are super nice
when they work.
Yeah. So far I haven't, I've heard of stories of the lithium batteries inside going bad, but so far all of mine have been champs, even when they're in the timber and they're kind of shaded. Like you go in, like the Stealth Cam ones have 4 little LED lights on, they'll light up and tell you just how much charge it has. So far so good. I haven't had to touch them.
Yeah, I had a few issues last year. I've never had an issue with that Reconyx one, but it's bigger. It's a bigger solar panel. It's twice the size of some of the ones that you're talking about. And I think obviously that makes a huge difference, but I've never had to go recharge or do anything like that. Whereas some of the others I have had to go in and it's like, man, this was fully charged when I put it out. It didn't last long. It's like, it's shaded a little bit. And I always think, well, and obviously I don't know how exactly it works, but you would think any sunlight, even if it's not direct, wouldn't that be helping the cause on the solar panel?
Yeah, and I guess it depends on the drain, like how busy that camera is, to how much it's going to need to pull.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely a chemistry to how many pictures are being sent out versus, what's coming in. And, we have had good luck with setting our cameras on a twice a day delivery, or, they send out twice a day. And that's been the best for us. Again, we do it before and, like say 9 a.m. and 9 p.m., something like that. And that, lets you know what goes to bed where in the mornings, and then, lets you know what comes out and goes to what fields, that evening and that night. So it kind of gives you a full round of.
Yeah. Even those send settings are dependent on what is going on in front of that camera, because if you have a ton of activity on a spot, like a ton, you could drain the battery with 2 bigs or one if you just have it set to once daily.
Log jam basically.
Yeah, thinking that you're going to save battery, but that's a huge upload in one shot. So like most of my cameras, I get like moderate movement around mine, so I set most of mine to instant group. So like it'll take, and then when it stops sensing movement, like there's nothing else around, then it'll batch those up and send them up, as opposed to like instant, where it'll take your burst and then send it, and then the camera's dead for however long it takes to send, then starts taking again. So you gotta play with those based on what the activity is like around your cameras.
I have all mine on instant.
Yeah, you might look at that.
Maybe that's the issue on some of those cameras from last year.
Yeah, because they go dead, or the camera basically goes inactive while it's trying to send that out. So if you're in kind of like a so-so area that may take it a minute or two to try and send that picture out, well, camera's not taking any pictures.
Yeah, that might be my issue then.
Yeah.
yeah, definitely instant group would be, if you like that instant intel, instant group would be better than the instant.
Hit that Scott sounder.
He's the one that set it up. So
exactly.
So Wade, any other tips there before we move on to a different topic? Anything else in regards to setting the camera up, or settings themselves, or
Yeah, I mean, the main thing to do not do would be set that camera up facing southwest or west, and get that evening sunlight, because whenever all the deer activity is coming, the deer are just going to be blacked out by the sun. So have that's one of our biggest thing. We like to face them either east northeast, southeast. You get the morning sun with that easterly type view, but if you could set it up facing north, obviously that's the best, or even straight south ain't horrible. So we always try and set our cameras up looking north or south, northeast.
It's
northwest.
always nice when west setting sun triggers your camera.
Yeah,
you just got a whole series of a sunset
going through the screen,
a black dot.
Like, yeah. I'm gonna burn my iris on my camera with this with the sun.
Yeah.
That's
good advice.
It's interesting. I got to talk to some of the stealth cam engineers about how they set things up, and like they've got to think about infrared heat from sun hitting the ground in front of the camera, triggering the camera, or like making sure that infrared sensor frame matches the camera frame, so you're not picking up things off to the side that the camera's not getting. There's just so much that goes into that. And like now's a great time to be putting your cameras out, getting them dialed in, and not waiting until,
And another big thing this time, or, this first round, that we always try and do that people probably don't understand is, if you're setting your camera up, above your belly button or whatever, and you got even knee tall to mid thigh tall grass in front of your camera. Yeah, your camera's not going to be covered by the grass, but whenever that nighttime infrared flash, that grass or brush or anything, even though that it may not be in your camera, it sucks up so much more light than if you're dealing with a couple inch tall grass. So take that weed eater in there and get it all nice and clean. And like I said, it may not look like it's in front of your camera, but it'll definitely suck up that IR and take that IR to about half range.
Great point.
Versus if you were, just if you had it nice and weed eated down, even brush or even tree limbs or anything, if they're not in your frame, but they're still out in front, it acts as the same thing. So just make sure it's nice and clean all around your camera, because it'll suck up that IR in a hurry.
It'll pick up on whatever it is and it blows it out. And then it just whatever was supposed to get the IR, you can't tell what it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's too dark.
Yeah.
Wade, one of the questions I was going to ask you was, do you guys do anything with scent control while you're putting cameras out?
No, because again, whenever we put them out, we plan on leaving them out for a very long, a long time, up to till probably let them ride in these. In Iowa, we probably let them ride for probably 8 weeks. And then, because we keep our food and stuff, our feed and stuff away from our fields, and just kind of keep it on the outskirts away from everything, because it could tend to make a pretty nasty little spot, where they paw at the ground and everything and rip up all the grass and whatnot. So we'll move them off those feed sites and get them towards those food plots, once season gets a little closer and we get done feeding, obviously. But no, so.
Okay. Yeah. Good to know.
All right. So you guys obviously got everything planted in the ground outside of your fall plots. What are you doing this time of year? You mentioned this morning you were out spraying some fields.
Yeah. Spraying some bean fields. We just got done last week, and then yesterday finished up with spraying our clover fields, got them all dialed in. But yeah, just building hot wire fences around our bean fields. They're just getting up, 6-8 inches tall right now, and deer are starting to really work on them. It seemed like we got a lot of our food plots in, a lot of our bean fields in before the farmers around us, which we thought, get them in, let's get some rain. But in actuality, I think it hurt us a little bit, as all the whole deer herd is on our bean fields versus, whenever they were first coming up, whenever they normally would be out into these big ag fields. So just trying to protect some of our bean fields right now with hot wire and, a lot of blind stuff. We just got another shipment of blinds in. So myself and Perry are going to be busy here the next couple of weeks, getting those all situated, trading out some old ones and getting these new hawks in these better areas give us a little bit more scent protection in some of these spots. So doing a lot of that right now, just trimming roads. We just got a new 80 some acre farm in Missouri. So we've been getting that all dialed in. We just had the dozer guy in there and pushed out a new plot and opened it up to our cornfield. So just some odds and ends stuff around the farm right now, just kind of waiting for late July to get here so that we can start that prep for our green fields. Like right now, we just let our green field, we kind of keep them sprayed off all through the summer. But a lot of them have weed in them because some of our fields didn't grow very good last year. So we drilled weed in them. We're just going to let that wheat stand and, like I say, mow it off mid to late July and keep those weeds out of it and just deal with the wheat stubble once we mow it off. So, and then we'll just go right back in and drill right through it.
I was going to say, then come back in and drill again.
Yeah, just drill right back through it that way.
Mostly
it's
radishes
a good way
or
to
what?
keep your weeds off of it. What's that?
Mostly radishes or what? What are you drilling? What are you putting in for your fall plots?
Oh, radishes, turnips. We'll do like a last bite mix with wheat and oats, and so all the everything.
Yeah,
radishes. Some of the smaller plots inside of a bean field, we may go in and carve it out with tiller, and those smaller ones. It seems like if you drill those smaller ones, it seems like it takes forever for the field to fill out because you have obviously the spacings in the drill. But in the end, it looks like crap for the first few weeks, but once those radishes get up and a little bit bigger, they fill in nicely. So yeah. I think it gives a real nice proportionate look to it, especially once it gets up a little bit when there is no holes.
It's concerning a little bit that here in June, as we film at the end of June, we're already seeing these types of August temperatures. I mean, like late July, August temperatures this early in the summer. It's a little concerning given that we've been in such a drought kind of situation every summer for the past few summers. Have you guys, I'm sure you don't, I'm sure you have a plan and a backup plan, but I guess is it, hey, have plenty of, wheat or whatever, oats or something that you can plant later in the season if you got to go back in and fix a bunch of food plots?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. I mean, obviously the best thing that you could do in a drought to have green would be to have an existing clover field. So we try and keep those around as long as possible and keep those clover fields good when we have a good year, to create another clover field, if you will, because that's one thing, that's easy to throw a little bit of water on if you can, and it regenerates really, really good and gives you that green. But yeah, like you said, wheat and oat is always a good backup plan. If your first fields fail in late July, early August, you can go back in. We've done wheat all the way at the 1st of October and at least have a green coverage to hunt over the rest of the fall.
Yeah.
So yeah, worst case scenario, go back in, drill wheat and oats. Usually doesn't take a whole lot of moisture to get those up and rolling. And like I said, it's one of those things that just keeps growing. So we've had to plant wheat and oats if they eat all of our radishes out, which we've been going in with probably a 50 or 60% rate on our wheat. Like on a radish field, we'll throw in a 50% rate on wheat so that we always have green, even if they eat our radishes out. So kind of just trying to jump in that step of
your bets.
A field that they normally eat down pretty good. We'll just throw in that 50 to 60% stand of wheat as well into our radishes, and it's worked pretty good. Last year or the year before last year was the first year we tried that, and it's really worked well. And we did it again last year, and again, it worked really well.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Then you don't have to necessarily go back and drill.
Later on. It's already there.
It's already there.
Yeah,
they can't eat it all out.
Yeah, a little protection from the blazing sun too here in the summertime.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Wade, you ready for the shenanigans of the show?
Yeah, of course.
Right. All
Always.
right. So first up, question of the day. Question of the day is brought to you by Sportsman's Channel. Check out the latest season of Winchester and Drury's Natural Born. All right, we got a question from Brandon Plank from over in the Rack Pack. He says, how soon do you put cams out? And if not sell, how often do you check them? Well, we probably jumped the gun on our topic of the day
But
today.
ours are a little different. Like you guys are putting yours out a little later. I've had mine out just depending on the spot. Now I've had some cameras out for a few weeks to a month already.
This year, I'm going to be a little bit late just based on personal life. What we're going to be gone, for a little bit there, middle of July. So I'm going to be putting them out later. But Wade, real quick, if you can, just kind of recap what you guys do. How soon do you put them out? If not sell, how often do you check them? Probably the part about how often do you check them if they're not cell cameras.
Yeah. So, like I said, we like just for the sheer purpose of not having to just get loaded up with pictures every single day. Because I'd have to go back, but I'd hate to guess how many thousands of photos that we look through every single day between the three of us. I would say, every day, probably 15,000 photos between all three of us, between the three of us.
Yeah.
So like I said, we like to push it out to that, mid to late July, because, by the time the first part of August gets here, like I said, in Iowa, where we can feed and get that inventory, that second week of August is really, really good on those feed piles. And the deer are fully developed, so you actually get to see what they are versus those, just beams or brow tines. You get to see what the deer are, basically just saving batteries and saving card space, waiting till, mid to late July to throw them out. But, if they're not a cell camera, I guess it just depends on where the camera's at and, what you're trying to learn from that camera. Probably on average, maybe like 4 weeks, we'll let them sit. However, once the rut gets here, if it's an easy in and out and we're just trying to figure out, some MRI or whatnot, but we'll check them a little bit more often if you can get in and out with the right wind.
Yeah.
And, so just kind of depends on where they're at and what your goal is with that particular camera. If you're trying to just gain full year's burst information, a little bit longer. But if you're trying to go hunt a specific deer, we're checking them, anytime the wind's right, that we're trying to get in there, to hunt that deer. So it just kind of depends on what you're dealing with.
Yeah. For if he's asking specifically about summertime, really you're not gaining much information because things are going to change so much by the time the season hits and they lose their velvet. So you're doing more harm than good if you're going in there and checking. So your instance was 4 weeks, you guys put them out late July or early August, 4 weeks. Well, that puts you into September. Then that makes sense. You get a little bit of inventory. If you're in a state that's open early or Missouri the 15th or one of those kind of states, it makes sense. Cause then you could start putting a game plan for those first, few days to weeks.
Exactly.
If you're in Iowa, Illinois, some of the states that open October 1st, you're not doing yourself any good by going in there often. You might as well wait a little bit.
Yeah. Let them sit out there again, let that scent get away and, just the least intrusive you can be, the best.
Yeah. Yep. Awesome. All right. What's next, Tim?
Okay. The wildlife word. It's brought to you by PH Outdoors. Get ready for a successful hunting season with PH Outdoors G Series no-till drill.
That's you guys use that quite a bit up there.
Yeah.
Is that I know it depends if you guys are planting a big, bean field or, corn or something like that, you're probably using a little bit bigger implement, but for all your green plots, that's pretty much you guys' go-to, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. We use that, the G8.
So it's a
3-point rack. We're actually going to switch to accommodate our lift capacity. We have a 90 horse and the G8's just a little bit big for that. So we're going to switch to an 8-foot pull behind and through PH Outdoors as well. But they're going to switch us out and we're going to get a pull behind with that. But we also have a little a G5 5-footer that's really handy for those tight little food plots. But yeah, we really enjoy our G8 and G5.
Nice.
And they're so easy. Literally, like you could plant anything from clover seed all the way up to corn seed. Granted, you know, with that corn seed, you have to tape off a few of the holes so they're not on those tighter rows. But you know, just a turn of a knob and a pull of a lever, and you could switch it just like that. It's so simple to use.
Does it have a chart that comes with it, or is it just something you look up online, or what do you know?
Yeah, there's a chart online.
Yeah,
they might have them with them now. I don't know. I just, you know, obviously over the last couple of years, I've just got all my settings down and written in my notes in my phone.
Yeah, cheat sheet.
Corn to clover. That's a pretty wide range.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At what stage is a deer antler considered cartilaginous?
Hey, I did this already.
Did you really?
I'm pretty sure I did that last week. Go ahead. We'll give it again.
Okay. This is for Wade. Wade, this one's for you. At what stage is a deer antler considered cartilaginous or resembling cartilage? Is it A, after hardening, B, pre-calcified, C, after casting, or D, prior to growth at the pedicle?
So the B, pre-calcified, was velvet. C, after casting, is shedding. Just to give you a little more info there. So A, after hardening, B, velvet, C, shedding, D, prior to growth at the pedicle.
I would say B.
Pre-calcified, velvet stage.
Yeah. Cartilage, resembling cartilage. I'm going to say the same thing.
Yeah, you boys are right. Nice job.
Well, Tim, I actually looked this one up.
Hey, you're learning before the show.
Yeah.
Yes.
Maybe that's why I thought I did this question.
Oh, yeah. You did your homework. You're not used to doing that.
No, it's been a while.
I didn't get the pre-podcast memo.
No, you're not gonna.
It was
trying to make the
green
guests
room.
look foolish.
Jeez. All right. Well, we got a shout out. Hunter for Life over at Apple Podcasts says, super content, awesome guests. Love the stories. Keep it up and good luck this season.
He used 2 exclamation points.
Dang it,
Just
he's
say
excited.
Super
He's excited.
content.
Yeah.
Awesome guests.
You're a guest, Wade.
Here we are.
All right.
He's only human, right?
That's right. That's right, Wade. He's only human. I guess Hunter for Life is a he. Could be a she.
H4L.
Could be a he, she.
It's 2024 now.
That's right. All right. So Rack Pack members, if you aren't in it, which Wade is a member, he's
I'm a member.
Poster, commenter. Yes.
Mhm.
So it's a private Facebook group, the 100% Wild Rack Pack. Just hit it in the search function in there in Facebook and you can find it. And it's a little community where we all talk crap and lift each other up and answer questions when people have them. And it's fun. It's good.
It's a little bit of everything.
All right. So we got a new member this week, Taryn Boozenbark.
Cool. What's
I
up,
like that.
TB?
Boozenbark. That's
Thanks for
like
joining.
that's like a fine mahogany or something.
Ooh.
Or like a drunk dog.
Whoa.
Booze and bark.
Booze and barking.
I didn't put that together until you spelled it out, and I like where you went with that.
Tippy got
Wade.
into the scotch. He's boozing barking.
Yeah.
If I get a dog, I'm naming him Boozenbark.
What was it? Bo was just asking me recently what would happen. Oh, if we put a fish in an aquarium filled with beer, what would happen to the fish?
What would happen?
It would suffocate, but
He was really interested to see if the fish would get drunk.
Yeah.
It's like, pretty sure.
What are you doing at your house? I thought you didn't drink, Tim. Why is he asking drinking questions?
Lots of questions.
Next question's about
knows?
heroin.
Okay,
Tim
kids,
dabbles.
gather around. We're going to learn about fentanyl.
You do live in a questionable area.
Oh, yeah. Big time. Big time.
All right.
All right. Well, so I did an Instagram live a couple days ago, and a waiter there hopped on.
You knew he did because he was the only one. They said Wade
there
Robinson.
were a number of people on that live.
like 6.
I said a number, Wade. It
That's
was
why I won't go live.
unnecessary.
I don't want to just cause myself the embarrassment of no one wanting to know what I'm up to.
I didn't know they made cricket sounds for these things. This is amazing.
So what were you doing?
Bow fishing.
Oh, nice.
Somehow Wade found a way to work in a reference to what, Wade?
His saddle.
Well,
I said
let's hear it.
he was along nice like tree edge and everything. I said, you could just find a nice tree above and smoke one from the saddle.
Fun fact, that spot,
I have done it.
my buddy and I saw the biggest whitetail live that I have ever seen in my life, one like August evening at night. Just it's St. Louis County ground.
Yeah.
It's super thick. It's Merrimack River bottomland. It was scary big, but it was like 11 p.m. at night. The floodlights from the bow fishing boat just kind of illuminated it.
So you were.
It was terrifying.
Terrifying because why? He was going to jump
It's a
in the
big
ship,
deer.
the boat. He was going to get you.
Big deer, and I'm afraid of big deer. That's why I shoot the small ones.
Me too.
Yep.
Yeah. That's why I try not to hunt them.
Don't want. Have you ever tried to drag a big deer out of the woods? It's a lot of work.
No.
The small ones are so much
The
easier.
3-year-olds. That's where it's at.
That's right.
Yep.
Well, Wade, before we let you go, is there one deer that's on your mind going into this season?
There was a lot that we found dead, unfortunately. So there was,
right.
Some that we were really looking forward to seeing, and we ended up finding them dead during shed season. So I'm excited to see the first round of pictures and see what actually made it through. So
it's never a good sign when our YouTube page has several heartbreaker episodes of the deer season, like back to back to back.
Mm-hmm.
And the last one really shot out of the gate. I mean, I don't know where it's at now. It's probably 50,000 views in like just a couple of days. So it was another giant. That's a good part about how you guys inventory them. You have storylines to go with all these deer, but the shitty part is obviously finding them dead. So
yeah, and it seems like more often than not, that's generally the demise of them. Usually it's not by us. But, whenever we do get one, boy, it sure feels good. But
yep.
Mm-hmm.
Well, all right. We'll probably catch up with you again. I'd say here close to the season. If you do get something on the ground or your elk, we'd love to have you back on and go over, the story and what happened and all that good stuff.
Absolutely. Yep. I'd love to.
All right, Wade. Well, thanks for jumping on, buddy.
Absolutely. Thank you guys.
All right.
Have a good day.
Till next time. Peace out.
Bye-bye.
Take land management to the next level with DeerCast's exclusive virtual rain gauges. Pinpoint accuracy and historical data, all powered by industry-leading ag weather services. DeerCast has the tools to keep you ahead of your game.
We're adding new videos every week, so make sure to click that subscribe button and check out all of our amazing content. This episode of DoD TV is brought to you by DeerCast Maps, waypoints, weather, virtual rain gauges, and more. Every tool you need to get ahead of your game.